in the heart of Crestwood Towers. A single kick shattered silence and exposed a truth no one was ready for. Vanessa's boot clipped the metal bucket. Clang echoed through the polished lobby. In that instant, everything froze. The elderly cleaner stumbled, nearly lost her footing. A hush fell over everyone. The woman Vanessa thought was a poor, powerless cleaner was neither poor nor powerless, nor who she appeared to be. Every whispered rumor in the halls, every sideways glance, none of it captured the full story. But right then, in slow motion, you saw it. That simple act of cruelty cracked open a world built on assumptions. How did things reach this breaking point? Before we dive deeper, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. This moment was only the beginning. Vanessa Hale wasn't born into the polished world she now tried so hard to blend into. She wore confidence like perfume, strong enough to impress from a distance, but quick to fade when anyone got too close. In every room she entered at Cole Industries, her heels clicked with the certainty of someone who believed she deserved more than anyone else. Yet behind her flawless makeup and filtered online persona lived a constant fear. The fear of slipping back into the life she fought to escape. She wanted status, she wanted admiration, and most of all, she wanted Ethan Cole, the man whose last name alone could open any door in America. What she didn't realize was that Ethan mistook her ambition for kindness and her insecurity for vulnerability. He had no idea that the woman he was planning to propose to in just a few weeks was already rehearsing how to say yes in the most camera-perfect way possible. Ethan Cole, on the other hand, carried a different kind of weight. As the CEO of Cole Industries, he lived in a world where his signature could fund research, launch foundations, or change a struggling community overnight. Yet in private moments, when the meetings were done and the office lights dimmed, he wished for quiet things, simple things like loyalty, honesty, and someone who saw him as a man before a billionaire. He believed he found that person in Vanessa. He believed she saw him, not his influence. What Ethan didn't realize was that the people working 10 floors below him had seen something else entirely. They whispered about the way Vanessa snapped at assistants, the way she rolled her eyes at receptionists, and the way she treated anyone she thought couldn't benefit her. Rumors traveled faster than elevator rides, and eventually one reached a woman who had spent her whole life recognizing danger before it reached her son. That woman was Mrs. Evelyn Cole, Ethan's mother. Wise, measured, protective. She rarely stepped into the spotlight of her son's empire, but when she did, every department felt her presence. She didn't trust easily, not after watching powerful circles twist good men and women into people she didn't recognize. So when she heard whispers about Vanessa's behavior, she didn't confront her. She didn't lecture her. She simply listened. Listened to the way people hesitated before speaking. Listened to the discomfort behind their polite phrases. She knew when something wasn't right. And although she hadn't told Ethan yet, she knew she had to act before he made a decision that could shape the rest of his life. So she created a test, not out of cruelty, but out of love. A quiet test, one that wouldn't humiliate anyone publicly unless the truth demanded it. But the question remained, what exactly did Evelyn hear? What was said that made her move so quickly, so decisively? And who was the anonymous employee who sent her that message late at night? The message that hinted Vanessa Hale wasn't who her son believed she was. The details were vague, the wording careful, but the warning was clear enough to make Evelyn lose sleep. Someone inside the company knew something they were afraid to say out loud unless their identity stayed hidden. Their message was the spark that set this whole chain of events in motion. And as the truth slowly unraveled, one thing became painfully clear. Vanessa wasn't the only person being watched. Would you want someone like Vanessa marrying into your family? Or would you also try to find out who she really was before it was too late? At first, the signs were small, almost easy to excuse. During a private dinner at Ethan's penthouse, while the table glowed with soft light and his mother had prepared a homemade dish she was proud of, Vanessa's smile grew tighter with every passing minute. She pushed the food around her plate, complimented the flavor with a tone too sweet to be sincere, then excused herself with the kind of practiced politeness that hid her impatience terribly. Ethan didn't notice her sighs or the eye roll she gave when he stood to clear the table, but Evelyn did. She caught it in the reflection of the glass wall. Subtle, but telling. Moments like that lingered in Evelyn's mind long after the evening ended, not because of the gesture itself, but because of the coldness behind it. A woman who truly cared wouldn't show disdain so openly in a family home, no matter how small the moment seemed. Over the next few weeks, more hints surfaced. One evening, during a corporate charity event, a close friend of Ethan pulled him aside, his voice low with concern. He didn't accuse Vanessa of anything specific. He simply urged Ethan to look deeper, to take his time, to make sure his heart wasn't outracing his judgment. Ethan brushed it off at first. In his mind, people sometimes misunderstood Vanessa's confidence, but that friend had no reason to lie, no hidden agenda. His warning gently unsettled Ethan, planting a seed he tried not to water. Meanwhile, Evelyn remained alert. She didn't go searching for flaws, but they found her anyway. In an elevator lobby, she overheard Vanessa speaking to someone over the phone, her tone sharp enough to cut. She complained about the expectations that came with dating someone like Ethan, complaining about etiquette, about events she found beneath her, and about how patience was something she didn't have time for. She didn't realize Evelyn was only a few steps away, standing quietly, absorbing every word. But the moment that changed everything arrived on a Thursday morning, delivered in the form of a plain envelope resting on Evelyn's doorstep. No return address, no handwriting that she recognized. Inside were printed photos. Vanessa stepping out of a high-end car with another wealthy man, her arm linked through his in a way that didn't suggest friendship. A second photo showed them laughing over dinner in a place that didn't allow casual diners. And then there was the voice note, saved to a simple USB drive. In the recording, Vanessa's voice came through clearly, laughing as she spoke to someone in confidence. She said she wasn't worried about her future because she was marrying up. And with Ethan, she would finally live the life she deserved. There was no affection in her tone, only calculation. Evelyn listened twice before placing the drive down, her hands trembling with a mix of disappointment and fear for her son's heart. The hardest part wasn't discovering the truth. It was deciding what to do with it. Should she confront Ethan and risk breaking him before she had proof beyond doubt? Or should she confront Vanessa and risk pushing her to hide even deeper behind her polished behavior? She spent days wrestling with the decision. She loved her son enough to protect him, but she also believed in giving people a chance to reveal who they really were. That belief guided her toward the idea she eventually settled on. If Vanessa truly loved Ethan, she would show it even when no one was watching. And if she didn't, it would become clear soon enough. So she crafted a quiet plan, one that required patience, humility, and careful timing. She borrowed a cleaner's uniform from a trusted staff member, someone who understood the need for discretion. She chose a Monday morning, knowing it was the busiest time in the lobby, filled with employees rushing in, executives crossing paths, and no room for pretense. That morning was chosen not at random. It was chosen because people reveal who they are when the world isn't focused on them. Evelyn wanted to see how Vanessa behaved towards someone she believed had no value to offer her. She wanted to watch without the safety of introductions or titles. She wanted the truth in its most unfiltered form. But what she didn't know was that her plan, simple as it seemed, was about to uncover more than she expected. Vanessa Hale had layers even her closest friends didn't fully understand. And when confronted with someone she believed she could push aside, the real Vanessa emerged. But Evelyn had no idea what Vanessa was truly capable of, and how far she would go to protect the image she crafted so carefully. Monday morning carried a different kind of pressure inside the marble lobby of Cole Industries. Employees moved quickly, heads down, whispering their greetings with the kind of careful politeness that came from fear, not respect. And then the elevator doors opened.
Vanessa stepped out, already irritated, her bag swinging sharply at her side. She muttered under her breath about traffic, about people moving too slowly, about how this place can't get anything right. The staff stiffened instantly. Shoulders tightened. No one dared make eye contact. Evelyn, disguised in the cleaner's uniform, watched the shift happen like a wave moving across the room. She could feel the tension gather as Vanessa approached, heels striking the floor with the confidence of someone who believed the world should adjust to her. If there was ever a moment that revealed character, it was when someone entered a room believing no one powerful was watching. Evelyn knew she needed only a small moment to see the truth. So as Vanessa reached the center of the lobby, Evelyn gently tilted the cleaning bucket, letting a thin trail of water slip onto the floor. It wasn't enough to cause danger, just enough to create inconvenience. Vanessa stopped instantly, staring at the droplets as if they were a personal insult. "Are you kidding me?" she snapped, her voice sharp enough to silence the room. "Do you even know how to do your job?" Her frustration spilled out before she even looked at the supposed cleaner. When she finally did, she leaned forward with a cold stare and added, "Some of us don't come here to clean up after people like you." The lobby froze. The words hung in the air, heavy and humiliating, and every employee present felt the sting of them. They had seen Vanessa be harsh before, but never this openly cruel. Evelyn stood perfectly still, calm, unshaken. Her years of life, of motherhood, of building resilience held her together like quiet armor. She lowered her eyes as a real cleaner would, but inside she observed everything. Vanessa's frustration, her impatience, her complete disregard for the possibility that the woman in front of her might have feelings, might have dignity, might be someone's mother. Vanessa continued, her voice rising as she waved a dismissive hand. "If you can't handle something this simple, maybe you shouldn't be here at all." The employees exchanged glances but said nothing. They had learned long ago that Vanessa's anger only grew when challenged. Evelyn simply murmured an apology, her tone steady. Not weak, not submissive, steady. She didn't flinch, didn't step back, didn't allow Vanessa's behavior to shake her. In that silence, Vanessa revealed more about herself than Evelyn ever could have discovered through rumors or messages. Vanessa, satisfied with her outburst, turned sharply and kicked the metal bucket out of her way. It skidded across the floor with a loud scrape, water splashing onto Evelyn's shoes. That moment, the exact moment Vanessa lashed out without hesitation, etched itself into the memory of every witness. Some gasped quietly. Others looked away, ashamed they couldn't intervene. But Evelyn remained exactly where she was, calm, steady, watching the woman her son planned to marry show her true nature piece by piece. And yet no one watching had any idea who this cleaner really was. They only knew there was something deeply wrong with the scene unfolding before them. What they didn't know, what no one yet realized, was that upstairs, in the quiet security office, an employee had already replayed something on the cameras. Something that changed the entire meaning of what had just happened. Something no one expected. Upstairs, the security office was rarely a place of excitement, but that morning it felt different. Two guards leaned over the monitor, narrowing their eyes as the lobby footage replayed. One of them frowned, tilting his head as he watched the disguised cleaner absorb the anger without a single defensive word. "Isn't that?" he whispered, unsure if he should finish the thought. The other guard hesitated, then lowered the volume before responding. "I think it is." They both knew the face, even beneath the uniform, even without makeup, even with her posture changed. Evelyn Cole had visited the building countless times over the years, always with a gentle smile for the staff who worked quietly behind the scenes. Recognizing her wasn't the problem, saying it out loud was. Neither guard dared speak her name with certainty. If they were wrong, it could cost them their jobs, and if they were right, then something serious was unfolding. Downstairs, the tension had barely faded when Vanessa walked into the cafe corner, still enraged from the lobby encounter. She dropped her bag onto a chair, ignoring the startled barista, and pulled out her phone. Without lowering her voice, she began recounting the incident to someone on the other end, laughing as she exaggerated every detail. "You should have seen her," she said, rolling her eyes dramatically. "This old woman practically spilled water everywhere. I told her straight, if she can't handle the simplest task, she shouldn't be working in a place like this." She paused, smirking as though the memory entertained her. Honestly, it felt good. People need to know their place sometimes. What she didn't realize was that a long-time employee, seated just a few feet away, slowly shifted in his chair. He recognized the cleaner's face instantly. He had seen Evelyn Cole on charity days, offering handshakes to workers most visitors ignored. His heart thudded with fear. If Vanessa ever discovered who she had just humiliated, the entire building would burst into chaos. But Vanessa remained blissfully unaware. She continued bragging, recounting the moment she kicked the bucket, adding unnecessary flair to make herself sound bold and justified. The employee stayed quiet, staring at his coffee as if it could hide him. He wanted to warn someone. He wanted to run to Ethan himself. But Vanessa had influence. She had connections. And people had learned that crossing her came with consequences. So he kept his head down, pretending not to hear her. What he didn't know was that the truth had already found another route. In the lobby, someone else, another employee, had recorded the entire exchange on their phone. Not for malice, not to go viral, but because they had seen Vanessa mistreat Steph before, and something in them told them this moment felt different. They saved the video quietly, unsure what to do with it yet, but certain it would matter. And as Vanessa continued bragging, unaware that the walls around her were silently shifting, one fact grew clearer with every passing second. Vanessa didn't know that someone in that lobby had recorded everything. Not a rumor, not a retelling, the raw truth. And that recording was about to become the most important piece of evidence in the days ahead.
Ethan stepped out of the boardroom, feeling the usual drain of long conversations and strategic debates. But the moment he entered the lobby, something in the air felt different. It wasn't the usual Monday rush. This was quieter, heavier. Conversations stopped mid-sentence when he walked by. Employees who normally greeted him with warm smiles now stiffened, eyes shifting away as if they were afraid to meet his. Even the security guards at their station appeared uncertain, glancing between him and the screens behind them. Ethan slowed his pace, scanning the room. Something had happened. Something big enough to alter the entire mood of the building. He felt a pressure in his chest, a faint, cold instinct he rarely ignored. Then he noticed the small puddle near the far column, faint streaks of water being dried with a mop that leaned carefully against the wall. It looked as though a mess had been cleaned hurriedly, with tension woven into every step taken around it. As he moved closer, the receptionist, someone he had known for years, shifted nervously behind the counter. She opened her mouth twice before any words came out, and even then, they emerged soft, almost whispered. "Sir, something happened this morning." Ethan stopped. Her tone alone was enough to unsettle him. She didn't elaborate, didn't offer details, but her eyes kept flicking toward the area where the water stain remained. He looked down again, studying the faint marks of a dragged bucket, the way the floor still glistened slightly as though a spill had been wiped up too quickly. It was small, almost insignificant, but paired with the strained silence around him, the scene felt unnervingly out of place. He didn't know why, but the sight made his stomach tighten. There was something wrong, something everyone else seemed to know, but no one dared say out loud. The longer he stood there, the more the tension pressed in on him. People avoided passing too close to him, choosing longer routes around the lobby. Two junior employees whispered until they noticed him looking their way, then instantly walked off in opposite directions. Ethan wasn't a man prone to paranoia, but the atmosphere was impossible to ignore. Even the barista in the cafe avoided eye contact. Something had shaken his staff deeply. He inhaled slowly, steadying himself as a knot formed in his throat. "What happened?" he asked softly. But before the receptionist could answer, she froze, eyes widening at someone approaching from behind Ethan. Ethan turned, and the room seemed to hold its breath. The security chief was walking toward him slowly, measured steps, serious expression, careful posture, and with every step he took, Ethan felt his heartbeat grow heavier. And then the security chief approached him slowly, Ethan followed the security chief into the monitoring room, the silence stretching tighter with every step. The chief didn't explain much. He simply motioned toward a chair and pressed play. Ethan leaned forward, expecting to see some minor incident, maybe a misunderstanding involving a visitor or an employee. But when the footage appeared on screen, his breath caught mid-chest. The video showed the lobby from a high angle, the crowd moving briskly until Vanessa entered, visibly irritated. Ethan watched her body language, her eyes narrowing, the impatience dripping from every gesture. Then, the disguised cleaner appeared, small, quiet, trying to mop a simple spill. What followed unfolded slowly, painfully, as he watched Vanessa berate her, raise her voice, and then, with no hesitation at all, kick the metal bucket. Ethan felt his grip tighten on the edge of the desk. His skin went pale as he watched the humiliation, unable to look away, feeling a sickening heaviness spread through his chest. If you're still here watching, comment, "I'm still here," so we know our real viewers. The words of the CTA echoed gently, but Ethan barely heard his own breathing. He replayed the moment of the kick again, not because he wanted to torture himself, but because something in the cleaner's posture struck him as familiar. He leaned closer to the screen, studying her hands, the way she steadied herself, the small flinch she tried to hide. And then he saw something that made the floor drop from beneath him. On her left hand, glinting faintly under the lobby lights, was a ring. Not just any ring. A ring he had seen his entire life. Evelyn's ring. A simple gold band with a tiny diamond chip, worn thin for decades of use. Ethan's heart cracked open as realization washed over him. The cleaner Vanessa had screamed at, the woman she kicked without a second thought, was his mother. He pressed his palm to his forehead, bowing as though the weight of the moment was too much to carry. His breath shook, not from anger, but from heartbreak. His mother had always carried herself with dignity, kindness, quiet strength, and she had stood there, in that uniform, absorbing cruelty she didn't deserve, all because she had doubted the woman he loved. Ethan felt a sting behind his eyes. The betrayal wasn't just Vanessa's behavior. It was the fact that his mother had felt the need to disguise herself to discover the truth. That she hadn't trusted Vanessa's intentions, that she hadn't trusted he could see what she saw. The footage kept playing, but Ethan didn't need more. He knew. He understood now why the building felt suffocated with tension. He understood why the staff couldn't meet his eyes. But as overwhelming as this revelation was, it wasn't the end of it, because the truth waiting for Ethan upstairs was far worse. But that was only the first betrayal.
Ethan didn't wait to process. He found Vanessa in the executive suite, pacing like she owned the world, unaware that the walls of her carefully constructed image had already begun to crumble. His voice was low but sharp, the kind of tone that demanded attention. "Vanessa, what is this?" He held up his phone, the video cued and ready to play. She froze for a moment, then straightened, forcing a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "What are you talking about?" she said, voice sweet but fragile, as though she could convince the world of her innocence with a single syllable. Ethan leaned in, unrelenting. "This, right here. The lobby. You kicked her. You humiliated her." Vanessa's eyes narrowed, a flash of panic beneath the practiced calm. "That video is edited," she insisted. "You know how people manipulate footage these days. That isn't what happened." She took a step closer, voice dropping, tone soft but pointed. "Your mother, she hates me. She's trying to ruin us. You don't know the full story, Ethan. She wants to control your life, just like she always has." Her words were a calculated mixture of fear and persuasion, meant to sow doubt, meant to make him question what he had just seen. Ethan's mind whirled. Could he believe her? Could someone really manipulate the footage so perfectly? Could the woman he had trusted to guide him, the one he had seen abused, be responsible for twisting his reality? The combination of anger, disbelief, and heartbreak made it nearly impossible to think clearly. He wanted to believe her, wanted desperately to maintain the image he had built in his mind of love, trust, and the future. But every instinct in his body screamed otherwise.
As Ethan wrestled with the choice of trust or disbelief, the past of Vanessa began to surface subtly, glimpses of insecurity, neglect, and loneliness that she had carried all her life. Not enough to excuse the cruelty, not enough to soften the blow of what he had seen, but enough to hint at why she had created a mask so convincing that even someone like him had been fooled. Behind every manipulation, every calculated move, was a history shaped by fear, shame, and the desperate desire to survive in a world that often rewarded only appearance. But morality was murky here. Trauma explained nothing. Lies still hurt. And for Ethan, truth and love were tangled in a way he had never experienced before. And just as doubt began to press on him, just as he felt the pull between believing Vanessa or believing his mother, the office door opened quietly. A stranger stepped inside, someone Ethan did not expect, someone whose presence would change everything he thought he knew. The timing, the expression, the intent behind those footsteps, it made Ethan pause, frozen in a moment of realization. The confrontation wasn't over, not even close. And the stranger's arrival promised that the secrets, the lies, and the truths he had been piecing together were about to collide in ways he could never have imagined. Ethan wanted to believe her, until a stranger walked into his office. The office air felt heavier the moment the stranger stepped forward, his presence impossible to ignore. He was composed, calm, but there was an intensity in his gaze that made Ethan lean back in his chair. "Ethan Cole, you need to know the truth about Vanessa." Ethan's heart sank, a mix of dread and disbelief pressing in. The stranger introduced himself as someone from Vanessa's past, a former fiancé she had abandoned years ago. He didn't speak to provoke anger or sympathy, he spoke to reveal facts. Facts Ethan couldn't ignore. He described how Vanessa had carefully curated her relationships with wealthy men, how she studied their habits, and how she calculated each step to benefit herself materially and socially. Ethan listened, shock rooting him to the spot, as the stranger explained that Vanessa had even devised a plan to claim half of Cole Industries, leveraging charm and deception to get what she wanted. Then came the final piece. The stranger's eyes met Ethan's. "She didn't just manipulate you," he said quietly. "She had someone inside your company, watching, reporting, recording. It wasn't just ambition, it was calculated espionage." Ethan's mind raced, the weight of betrayal crushing him from every angle. The lobby incident, the kick, the humiliation, it was all part of a web he hadn't realized existed. Every instinct screamed that the woman he had once thought he loved had been playing a role the entire time. And then, as on cue, a staff member's message arrived on Ethan's phone. He opened it, hesitant, and saw the full video for the first time. Not just the kick, not just the humiliation, but Vanessa bragging afterwards, laughing about the power she wielded, her voice dripping with confidence and manipulation. The combined evidence, the stranger's testimony, the lobby recording, the bragging, formed a reality Ethan couldn't deny. Every lie, every mask, every calculated facade collapsed in front of him. Ethan sat back, trying to breathe, trying to make sense of the woman he thought he knew. She had been calculating every move, using everyone around her, and hiding her intentions behind charm, beauty, and a smile meant to disarm. But even amidst the shock, he felt a strange clarity settle over him. The full truth had emerged, undeniable and complete, and he could no longer ignore it. What Vanessa had done wasn't just betrayal, it was a revelation that would change the course of his life forever.
Ethan sat across from Vanessa in the grand living room, the silence between them heavier than any words could carry. Her eyes searched his face for the warmth she had once believed was unconditional, but all she found was resolve. "Vanessa," he said quietly, "I can't do this. I can't marry someone who has deceived me at every turn." Her expression flickered from shock to panic and then to a practiced calm, as if she could twist the moment back in her favor. She tried, one last time, to manipulate him, leaning closer, voice soft, eyes wide. "Ethan, you don't understand. I never meant to hurt you. Your mother, she's trying to ruin us. You can't believe her over me." But it was too late. Every lie, every hidden agenda, every calculated smile had been exposed. He saw her clearly now. At that moment, Evelyn entered the room. She didn't rush forward, she didn't scold, she simply stood there, calm, poised, disappointment written in the quiet lines of her face. Ethan's chest loosened as he felt her presence, a sense of relief washing over him. She crossed the room slowly, placing a hand on his shoulder. "You did the right thing, Ethan," she said gently. "Sometimes love isn't about giving people what they want. Sometimes it's about seeing the truth, protecting yourself, and protecting your heart." Her voice carried years of wisdom, of understanding, of love that needed no applause. In that room, surrounded by the aftermath of deception, Ethan felt the strength of his mother's guidance. Evelyn kneeled slightly, meeting his eyes. "I know this hurts, and I know you wanted to believe her, but now you see what you needed to see. Life doesn't always turn out the way we imagine, but it teaches us lessons we can't ignore. You're safe now, you're strong now, and you're free to move forward with clarity and peace." Ethan felt tears prick the corners of his eyes, not for the heartbreak, but for the relief, the clarity, the unwavering love of a mother who had quietly fought for him without him knowing it. In that moment, the weight of betrayal lifted slightly, replaced by understanding, wisdom, and the beginning of healing. For Ethan, for Evelyn, and for everyone who had been caught in the web of lies, it was a moment of truth that would never be forgotten. Vanessa Hale's carefully constructed world collapsed almost overnight. The company, once dazzled by her charm and ambition, quickly stripped away her influence. Rumors spread, whispers of manipulation and deception traveled faster than she could counter them, and her reputation crumbled under the weight of her own actions. The job she had fought to maintain, the life she had hoped to secure, vanished, leaving only the stark reality of choices made without conscience. Meanwhile, Ethan sat quietly in his office, reflecting on everything that had transpired. He thought about beauty, about charm, about the illusions that had almost convinced him to overlook the truth, and he realized with clarity that beauty fades, but character reveals itself. What truly matters is not how someone appears in a perfect photograph or how smoothly they navigate social circles, but the integrity they carry when no one is watching. Softly, almost to himself, Ethan reflected, sometimes the people we trust wear masks, hiding intentions behind smiles and words, while sometimes the people we overlook, the quiet observers, the humble souls, carry the deepest wisdom. He thought of his mother Evelyn, who had risked nothing less than the truth to protect him. He felt gratitude, relief, and a newfound respect for the strength it takes to act wisely when deception is all around. The lessons were clear, and they resonated far beyond the walls of coal industries. What do you think? Did Vanessa get the ending she deserved? Was justice served? Or did her charm merely delay the inevitable? And if you were in Ethan's shoes, how would you have handled the moment when trust was shattered and truth emerged? If this story touched your heart the way it touched ours, hit that like button. It helps us reach more people. And subscribe if you want more powerful, emotional stories every day.